Hey, AP Seminar. All right, it's Rubric Deconstruction Day. Today we're going to take a look at the rubric for rhetorical analysis and for AP Lang. And we're going to take a look at what it is that you will have to do in order to score well on this rubric. Now, I'm hoping that while we go through this, you will understand why we have taken the approach that we have with building the thesis statement, with using commentary in order to address what they're looking for on this rubric. The way I look at this rubric, it should be very easy for you to do just a couple of simple, demonstrable, measurable things and hit the marks that this rubric is looking for. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rubric for rhetorical analysis for AP Lang. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the rubric for rhetorical analysis. And we're going to look at the scoring notes just because, just like all the other rubrics for College Board, I don't think the things that students get really give you the full picture of what the readers are going to be looking for. All right, there's only 3 rows. The first row, row A, is focused entirely on your thesis statement. So if you think about the work we did with the rhetorical analysis, we tried to get a full picture of the rhetorical situation. We tried to look at the techniques or the rhetorical strategies used. We tried to determine the relationships and the purpose, all so that we could generate a thesis statement, and this is why. The thesis statement, you're either going to get a 1 or a 0. Now, if you get a 1, it means that you respond to the prompt with a defendable thesis that analyzes the writer's rhetorical choices. Now, the rhetorical choices are going to be the things that the writer has done in order to address elements of the relationship. And you should understand that pretty well by now. If not, you have to ask for some clarification at some point. Tartan time, after school, whatever. Now, if you look at the scoring notes, it says it doesn't just rephrase the prompt, and it takes a position. Taking a position means that you are being able to clearly identify, in this case, clearly identify the purpose, and that you have an idea in mind as to why the writer did what he or she did to achieve that purpose. Looking at the additional notes, I would actually ignore some of these. It might be more than one sentence as long as they're in close proximity. No, it's going to be one sentence. We've already worked out how to build it. Just do that. It can be anywhere in the response. No, it's going to be after the introductory paragraph. We don't want them to hunt for your thesis. So those are the big things with row A. I mean, feel free to look over the rest of this, but you're going to do a very good job on row A if you just follow the little plan that we've put in place. Now, row B is where the big differentiation is going to take place. This is going to be the thing that either helps you to pass or fail. And if you look at what they're asking in row B, I think all of you are going to be able to accomplish this pretty well. Now, the 3-point box for row B, which is all evidence and commentary, it provides specific evidence to support all claims in a line of reasoning. And then it explains how some of the evidence supports a line of reasoning, and explains how at least one rhetorical choice in the passage contributes to the writer's argument, purpose, or message. So now if you think about what we've set up here, you're going to have 3 rhetorical choices or 2 rhetorical choices that will address the writer's argument or purpose. So here is a mode that they use, compare, contrast. Here's a device they used, a metaphor. And then you're going to tie it back to the relationship, and that's going to get you at least the 3-point range. Now, 4 points, the big differentiator between 3 and 4, look at that last part of the 4-point box, how multiple rhetorical choices. So if you can identify rhetorical choices that the speaker chose in order to address elements of a relationship, and you can do more than one, you should be in the 4-point range here. Now, where you may fall down is in commentary. Remember, that last part of the body paragraph, that commentary, you can't just explain what the device is. You have to explain how it reinforces a relationship, how it explains the writer's concerns about one aspect of a relationship. You can do that. You're in the 4-point range. Now, look at the additional notes below. Writing that suffers from grammatical or mechanical errors that interfere with communication cannot earn the 4th point. So if your writing is so hard to understand that I can't figure out what you're saying, you can't have a 4, even if you have accurately identified and connected two rhetorical choices back to relationships. And then second, in order to earn the 4-point, you have to observe multiple instances of the same rhetorical choice if each instance further contributes to the argument. So if this author uses metaphor more than once for the same reason, you have to be able to identify each of those. Now, I think they're going to be a little lenient on that, but just to be safe, if you see that they use the same rhetorical device more than once, include both of them in there if you can. Finally, the last row. The last row is the sophistication row. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, and I've had discussions with other AP teachers. The sophistication row is kind of a mystery to a lot of us. The way in which they break it down in those 3 different decisions or scoring notes. Number 1, in order to develop or demonstrate sophistication, you have to explain the significance of the writer's rhetorical choices given the situation. Now, I think you're going to do that in the commentary. You're going to tie the metaphor or the rhetorical mode back to the relationship, and that's number 1. You're going to explain the purpose or function of the passage's complexities or tensions. Now, this is a little more complicated, and we haven't talked as much about this. You're looking for ways in which the author does things in the crafting of the message to try to address the situation. So maybe they start by offering contrary information, but then they go to information that supports. Well, they do that for a reason. Or maybe they offer some sort of shocking statement or phrase that takes their audience off guard, but then comes back and clarifies it with a little more supportive statement. Like if there's some tricks that they used, and mostly in terms of rhetorical modes, you're going to be able to do that. Or 3, employing a style that is consistently vivid and persuasive. Now, this is speaking specifically to the way in which you write. Is your language sophisticated? Is the way in which you craft a sentence demonstrating a full command of the English language in terms of compound complex sentences, in terms of being very precise in your diction? But notice, it's any of the following. So while this is the murkiest category in terms of understanding exactly what they're looking for here, I think if we can do a good job of explaining the rhetorical modes or devices and relating them back to a relationship, I think that takes care of a lot of our problems in this rubric. And then the additional notes. It has to be throughout the essay, not just once. So if you're tying the rhetorical mode back to the relationship, but you only do it in one of your body paragraphs, you're not going to be able to get a sophistication point. And that's it. That's the rubric for rhetorical analysis. I almost didn't want to show this to you ahead of time because it seems almost overly simplistic. We should nail the thesis statement if we follow the pattern that we have established. As long as you're tying things back to relationships, you should do really well on the second row. And depending on how clearly you're writing, the third row is reachable for everybody. So there's a good reason to believe that you're going to be very successful with this essay based on what we have learned about rhetorical analysis. So that's it. I mean, it's only 3 rows. You're going to get row 1 as long as you follow what we talked about for a thesis statement. Include the purpose, the relationships, and the rhetorical devices. You should be there for row 1. For row 2, it depends on the commentary. Make sure you're always connecting the device back to a relationship. And you should be good for row 2. And then row 3 is sophistication. If you just write eloquently, or if you are able to consistently acknowledge devices and relationships, that should nail row 3 as well. I'll let you know that row 3 is the row that most AP teachers have the least understanding of, because it seems to be like it could be a couple of different things, a number of different things. So I don't know if that makes it easier or harder to achieve, but I think we have a great shot with the way that we are writing commentary that ties it back to the relationships. And that's it. That's the rubric for rhetorical analysis. So if you have questions, make sure you ask. Otherwise, good luck, and I hope you're feeling as confident as I am about how well you're going to do on this particular writing. Thanks.